have a large group here today as we start our rollout process of Totara. We'll get into some detail about what Totara is and what it represents for us as an organization and what we think it represents to the marketplace. I'm joined today by Jonathan Newman, who is Kineo's Director of Moodle and Totara Solutions in the U.S. And Jonathan's going to take us through the presentation today. Before we jump in, just real quickly, as we go along, I want to encourage everybody to ask questions. All of your phones are on mute, so we can't hear you. But if you look in the GoToMeeting bar that's present on your screen, you should see a questions pane. If you type questions into there, I will, as appropriate, try to answer back through that same pane, or bring them up in the context of the conversation so we address them for the whole group. Our goal is to try to keep the formal presentation part of today to about 40-45 minutes and leave the last 15-20 minutes for questions. So we'll also revisit some of those questions at the end for everybody to be able to hear. So with that, Jonathan, I'm going to turn things over to you.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Well, hello, everyone. Again, my name is Jonathan Newman, and I'll be speaking to you today about Totara. And just wanted to give you an outline of the agenda for the presentation portion of the webinar. I'll start off with giving some background to Totara, followed by a demo of the key features, show you some sort of screenshots of some other customized versions of Totara that we've developed to sort of give you an idea of the other kinds of look and feel that can be used in the platform. Talk a bit about subscriptions and hosting and support options that Totara is providing, and also answer, at that point, any questions that have been raised that haven't been answered by Steve in the chat space. But again, I just want to encourage everyone to basically ask questions about anything that I say or any questions that come up that you feel need to be addressed in any way, and we'll be happy to answer them either during the course of the webinar, or if we can't answer all your questions now, we'll follow up to the group with questions that have already answered. So I'd like to start out with just basically a description of what Totara LMS is. It's a distribution of Moodle, as probably all of you are well aware that Moodle is an open source LMS. It's by many standards, it's the most popular, and it's in our view, it's the best LMS in the market. And what we've basically done is we worked on basically enhancing Moodle to make it appropriate for the corporate space. And just to clarify, we get a lot of questions about what does it mean by being a distribution of Moodle. It just basically means we have a set of enhancements and plugins that basically extend the functionality, but we haven't changed any of the core of Moodle to achieve Totara. Totara is a joint venture. There are 3 founding partners in Totara. One of them is Catalyst IT, which has a base of operations in New Zealand. They're probably the largest Moodle partner in the world, somewhere over 100 staff that do primarily development. They have operations also in Australia and in the UK. Flexible Learning, which is now trading under the name Kineo Pacific. They're also based in New Zealand and have resources in Australia, and Kineo, which is primarily based in the UK, so the head of operations is, but there's also here in the US. We've got our team here, and there's other teams being added in the world, around the world. Israel's a recent addition, and there's a few others. So before I go further into talking about Totara, I think it would be good to basically ask a question of all of you, and that is how familiar are you with Moodle? I can spend a bit of time talking about that if it helps. So if you'll notice in the panel, Steve, if you could go ahead and start the poll. If each of you that's logged in, if you could just basically answer the poll and give us a sense of really how much do you know about Moodle already, and that will help me sort of guide the presentation.
Happy to share back those results with people. Give you a sense of who you're on. You're all in good company together.
Okay. Looks like somewhere about 40% have heard of it, but no one doesn't know anything about it. So I've got a few slides that I can just sort of quickly run through the group about really Moodle and its capabilities. So Moodle, again, is an open source LMS. It's under the general public license. The current stable version is GPL version 2. what that basically means is that anyone who has a copy of the code has a lot of freedom, the freedoms to redistribute the code, to modify the code as needed, to basically, it's not owned by any particular organization, and it basically means there's, you basically have, it's yours to do it as you wish, to have as many copies, to have as many users using it as you wish. Moodle is also robust. It has contained within it a whole suite of libraries and plugin architectures, and that basically support a very wide range of different types of learning. It also integrates very well with a wide range of other systems. I'll sort of describe a little bit more about where its background is, but it's very robust in what it can achieve. It's also very scalable. It's been used in a lot of very large instances, and it's been, in our experience, it works quite well in the larger numbers of users. Again, it's very customizable. It's written in PHP, which is probably the easiest programming language, programming language to learn and use. And so Moodle partners or organizations that are keen to use it themselves have been successful in changing it the way they need to do what they wish with it. And for end users, it's easy to use. We get a lot of positive feedback from users saying it's actually quite easy to do what they wish to use with it. It's also, again, very popular. This is based, some stats that's based on one of the latest e-learning guild reports, that Moodle is the most popular LMS, and it's ranked #1 amongst the sort of primary sort of metrics that they measured. Some additional facts about Moodle: it's got a development team that's quite large, about 130 active developers. I think about 20 of those are part of Moodle HQ, and a lot of other developers come from different institutions that are using Moodle and who are a part of the development community. It's got quite a large user base, and basically some of the larger instances, the sort of well-known ones, are Open University that has over 600,000 users in it. Moodle.org, the sort of main community site, has over 1 million users now. So it's sort of very well placed in the learning space. And again, some of the stats about how popular it is generally. What Moodle is largely, it's a course management system. It's been used very successfully in the academic space, and it's provided these types of functionality. Lots of different types of content, e-learning that's typically SCORM-based. Different types of documents can be uploaded, different types of multimedia files and links to other systems. In addition, there's a whole suite of different types of activities that can be added to courses. There's course calendars and discussion forums, chat rooms, RSS feeds. The kind of range of things you typically find in other systems, but are sort of, each tailored to the specific tasks. But again, it's largely targeted toward the education sector, and it's very well placed there again. And there's been a huge uptake across the world in the education space. But as organizations like Kineo and others that have sort of formed the JVC have found is that there's a lot of gaps in what the platform provides and what the corporate space needs. And so I've got sort of a quick list of the things that we recognize as those needs. Be able to support a wide range of learning for different types of targeted users. Learning that's really dependent on the role in the organization, maybe their business unit, their function, et cetera. Development plans, and really sort of targeting that toward ongoing development, not just sort of, once off, sort of you're sort of a student for a certain period of time. It's sort of about ongoing education for staff or for partners, et cetera. Really sort of well-developed manager roles and capabilities in the system, particularly around being able to sort of view and track progress of staff and assign learning to staff. And be able to support regional and sort of trainer roles who are managing or responsible for sort of seeing reports for staff in particular parts of the organization. Managing both classroom learning, so sort of face-to-face training, and also SCORM e-learning sort of components at the same time, and really providing a whole range of different site-wide reports. So those are the sort of key gaps that we've seen, and that's basically what we've targeted Totra to achieve with the functionality that you see listed here. And these are the key features that we've addressed in Totra. So in the first release, we've got individual development plans. There's face-to-face classroom management. There's team management. So when you're a manager, you can basically do a range of different things related to your own team. We've got a competency modeling tool. We've also got learning paths that can be defined. We've enhanced the search and made it sort of more usable for the kinds of things that organizations typically need for managing courses and catalogs. We've also got a number of different types of dashboards and different types of reports from managers, being able to sort of represent the organizational hierarchy and integration with different HR systems. So before I step into the demo, just a few more things I wanted to say about Moodle and its relationship to Totara is that it's essentially it is the same code base. We haven't changed any of the core. There are some parts of Totara that actually are in Moodle 2.0. We've actually developed them for Totara, and because they were core, that's one of those areas is course completion. So that feature in 2.0 is actually something that was developed for Totara that we recognize needs to be moved into the core. So that's actually a contribution that Totara has made to Moodle. Some other key points are that it's basically going to follow Moodle. So the current version of Totara is based on Moodle 1.9, which is the stable version of Moodle. There will be a 2.0 version once 2.0 stabilizes, and Totara will always stay close to the latest release of Moodle. You can upgrade from Moodle to Totara, so we're not actually removing any functionality. It's basically just a set of enhancements, so it's basically installed that require some new functionality. So for any organizations that are using Moodle, you pretty much can sort of take these add-ons and it will generally work. There's some considerations for how that generally is done, but we could work with you if you have any questions about how to do that. And at Totara, really, we are contributing our innovations back. A lot of the developers have already contributed some work back already, and there's going to be a continuing effort from Totara to give back to the Moodle community and the Moodle code base. So without further ado, I'd like to jump into a demo. And what I'll do is I'll sort of walk you through the functionality from these three different perspectives: learner, manager, and administrator. So what you're seeing here is something that might be familiar for a number of you. This is a sort of standard Moodle login screen, but you can see quite quickly we've got the sort of the Totara look and feel appearing here. And so logging in as a learner, and typically the work that we tend to do at Kenio with organizations is we sort of change the sort of look and feel of the portal sort of homepage based on organization's needs. But in general, the sort of navigation and accessing the sort of different features will work as I'm going to describe. We've added, we're still using a top navigation, but other navigation systems can work. The key thing here is that we've got these areas for a learner to basically find information. So their own particular learning, reports if they're made available to users, how to find other courses, and basically a calendar of training that's available. But these things can be sort of turned on and turned off basis as what you need. Just wanted to drill into the My Learning area. As I mentioned before, we recognize the need for some sort of dashboard that gives a learner a sense of the things that they need to be doing right away that are pertinent to their learning. So we've got some quick links that let them sort of navigate to the system. And recent learning, so these are courses that actually are in progress. So we've got a list of those and a progress indicator to show how far along they're progressing. Notifications, and this is largely driven by the interactions between, say, the staff member and their manager. So what we have here is a range of different kinds of notifications that can be set up, and these can be obviously these can be enhanced, and we can sort of make changes based on what your an organization's needs are. And reminders, things like some face-to-face training that's coming up, or some feedback that's required for a course they took in the last week. That's what this area is intended to provide. From this page, a learner can drill directly into a course. I'll show you a bit more of that in a moment. I want to spend a little bit of time on this other sort of key area that we're very excited about, and that's the individual learning plans. So what this is really doing is it's taking the learning that's actually happening in the various courses, and it's organizing in a way that makes sense to learners, particularly over a given period of time. And we've allowed for more than one type of plan to be available. It's obviously something that you may or may not be interested in, but the key thing is within a plan there are certain components that can be available to learners. And again, depending on your needs, is one thing we've built into it, and I'll show this in the admin view, but depending on the needs of your organizations, you can tailor what's contained in the plan based on what your capabilities are in your learning and development initiative. So for example, if I go into this particular plan, we've got sort of some general highlighted information, but the sort of key thing is if you just want to sort of have in the learning plan courses, these other tabbed areas can be turned off. But the key thing is for a learner, they can come into their plan, they can see the learning they need to be able to do. Here's some courses. Priorities can be set, and due dates can be set. There's ways of identifying which roles can set those priorities. Learners get a sense of the status against those, and Within a couple of clicks, the learner is able to see, here are the things I'm sort of working on, here's what I need to be doing. And for those who have heard of Moodle but haven't seen much about it, I'll show you an example of a type of course that is sort of typical to how Moodle is structured. We've sort of enhanced it a little bit to simplify the look and feel, but essentially, in a particular course, a learner can quickly come in and see, okay, I'm in a course, here's what's required for me to complete the course. There's 2 activities in the course. The 2 activities are here. And if the learner clicks, they can basically launch directly into some e-learning. This is at Kenya, one of our showcase e-learning components. We're just basically showing the sort of multimedia capabilities that can be used in the platform. But any of you are either authored using sort of various authoring tools or internally developed or outsourced e-learning content can be played within the platform, and from here the learner can basically navigate through. Assessments can be included, and that information can be tracked in the platform. But essentially what you get here is delivery of e-learning content for your learners. Moodle typically has basically an assessment engine. It's called the quiz tool, and basically it lets learners complete assessments as they're designed. And it's a very robust tool. It can be used to do quite a lot. I won't spend too much time on that, but it's one of the many things that, of course, you can add to a course and that can be tracked for the learner as they progress through the course. So the key thing is that we've got a very simple way of organizing the course content, and the results are tracked as they complete activities, and ultimately they'll see their final completion score appear for the course. I just want to go back to the individual development plan again, because it's quite an important feature to sort of describe in general what we're actually doing here. Is, if you are interested in, or if it's important to track competencies as well, the platform has a competency model which I'll walk you through as an admin, but the key thing is the learner can be assigned competencies that are tied to their role. They may be competencies that are achieved by completing courses. They may be assessed as well. But the key thing is, in their plan, they're able to see in one summary area the competencies they're working toward. They'll see the proficiency that they've been rated against, and the status for those. So it's a key way of being able to manage, say, compliance, et cetera. We're also supporting objectives. So this is a place where a staff member can, or a manager, et cetera, can define objectives that the staff member will be working on during this period of time. Again, these can be prioritized and they can be updated. And as I'll show you in a moment, there's different ways you can set it up so that the particular roles can basically manage those objectives and basically track how well they've been achieved. I mentioned before, but the platform provides support for classroom bookings. So this is what this kind of shows is the bookings that they have coming up in the future, and a report of what sort of classroom bookings have taken place in the past. And in the summary area, we've got basically a way for learners to see all the courses that they've completed over time, which plan has been included in, and something we're typically asked to do is basically to import historical data from other systems, and so that data can also appear in the record learning. Again, learning records that were achieved and acquired prior to actually completing, prior to actually sort of being enrolled into the platform. In a similar way, the record learning can show competencies that have been achieved, and there's a range of different things that can be used for. But if it's important to show employees or others, it's a view that can be sort of shown for particular learners. To show you a little bit about how learners can find other courses in the platform, this is just one of the many ways that the search can be configured. I'll sort of again show you this a bit more as an admin how you can configure this page. But essentially, what you get here is the ability for a learner to basically search for particular kinds of content. You can see here's a list of different courses. There's category types, and as needed, you can tag different types of content. And if needed, the content that appears in this catalog can be targeted toward the learner's, say, role or where they are in the organization. In this example, it's basically just a search that can let the learner see a range of different types of content, and from here they can drill into some courses. Something that I wanted to also show you is around the classroom booking functionality. So once I'm enrolled, I can actually enroll in this course. I'll show you this as an administrator, it's a bit easier to see. But essentially, what the face-to-face tracking system lets you do is learners can sign up for booking, basically book into classroom sessions, and can enroll, and basically their attendance can be taken. One sort of, on that note actually, the calendar in the platform provides a view of training that's ongoing. So if you wanted to allow learners based on their region to basically to come and see what kind of training is being offered, this can be again targeted to where they are in the organization, and essentially they can book into sessions, based on these filter types. So if a learner is interested in a particular topic area, they can actually find some face-to-face training, and from this from the calendar directly book into the session. That may or may not be of interest to you, but I think in a related way, there's other ways of being able to view this content as well. So if you want to basically allow for searches through a list, these kinds of things are available on the platform as well. So at this point, I'm going to log out as a learner and log in as a manager. And this happens to be Abby Miller's manager. So you'll notice one difference is that now that John Wiley is the manager, he has one area in the top navigation that Abby didn't have, and that's the My Team area. So it's one area that's distinct for managers. And what this manager dashboard does is it gives the manager a chance to view a number of things about their team. In the demo, we don't have some of this content actually updating yet, but the statistics area will show some key metrics about the staff. That manager staff members, and some notifications, etc. There's also a set of reminders that can be set up to basically show things that are actually happening, requests that are made from staff, etc. Just want to quickly show you the sort of My Team Member space. So it's basically a way for the manager to see all of their staff, to see some other individual stats about their team, and basically some ways of being able to access directly some of the other tools that we saw that the individual can see, for example, individual development plans. So if I click here, I'm able to see Abby Miller's development plans, and from here I can do a number of things that Abby can't do, and that's things like I can actually approve a plan, or I can say this plan maybe is declined as Abby's adding content to it, or adding courses and copies, etc. I can also create a new learning plan for Abby, and actually sort of view more detail about her progress through the plan. And it reminds me all the time that I'm looking at Abby's plan and not someone else in the team. I can do such things like set due dates and priorities, etc. I can add competencies as well to her plan, and I can see the objectives as well. And I could add another objective. I thought it was important to add an objective to our plan. So that's some of the key areas that you get that allows the manager to essentially manage their own team. Some of the other areas I think are quite relevant is being able to show, for a manager to be able to see reports on their staff and how they're progressing as a whole. So we have this report builder that's actually showing these kinds of reports. I want to focus in on the staff reports. This is basically showing all the course completions from my staff, or for this particular user's staff over the entire period of the platform. But it can be refined by due dates. There's a range of different types of functions I'll show you in a minute that basically let you sort of filter down that data. But essentially, a manager can get a very good view of who's basically progressing, and if they want to say maybe who's not completed a particular area, they should. I'm not sure there's a record that has it. Basically, they can pinpoint maybe who hasn't completed some relevant courses. I mentioned regional reports. I think it might be worth showing as well. I'm hoping this will work for you as well. Essentially, I'm actually assigned also as a regional manager. So I have direct reports, and that's who represents my team. But these things, we're calling them local reports in this demo, are essentially regional reports. So this is not just my direct reports, but everyone else who is in my part of the organization and below. So I'm able to see a much wider sort of set of course completions, and I can do things like filter it based on the organization or position, et cetera. And that summarizes the things I wanted to show you for a manager. I'll log in now as an administrator and show you how it all really works in the back end. So for those of you who are familiar with Moodle, you notice the site administration block. We've just added a few sort of components to this that basically give you an overview of how these kinds of things are all sort of managed. So we have the ability to basically add positions to and define positions in Totara. And positions, this is using, it can be based on a hierarchy. The key thing is that you can basically define a position, and you can do things like you can actually map competencies to those. So if, for example, I wanted to add competencies to this particular role, I can basically go in here and add those from various frameworks. I'll show you in a moment those different frameworks and how they're defined. So what competencies, basically we have the ability to define more than one type of frameworks. Typically a lot of organizations actually have different types. And a framework is basically a name for some sort of grouping of competencies that have some commonality. There might be some different off-the-shelf leadership frameworks, or different regions have their own frameworks of competencies. And that's basically what you get. You can define as many of those as you wish. I'll drill into this area and show you. Here's one example of a very flat level of competencies. We just named this one course-based. There can be, in some regions, there's nomenclature like unit standards. It's another flat-based hierarchy. For those of you who are familiar with some of the protocols in Europe, there's a European e-commerce framework, and I'm showing here a 2-level deep competency framework. You can have as many as 3 levels as you wish. That's what we're showing here. And the system supports being able to, as staff are assessed, you can basically, the system provides aggregation of those assessments. Say someone is confident in a lower level area, this can sort of walk up the competency model, and they can be aggregated. Say their verbal communication can be sort of assessed as competent in their particular role. What else to talk about? Organizational structure. As we mentioned, we've integrated already Totara with at least one SAP instance and the payroll system, and it's quite commonly the same how we've done it. We've got a sort of libraries that allow that to be achieved. And so what I'm showing here is we've got, in this example, there's various types of frameworks. Again, these are just names for different types of hierarchies. But if I go into sort of look at those different types of frameworks, this is an example of a 3-level high hierarchy. And basically, when you define an office, you can do things like you can add all those types of custom fields, and to basically describe it, there can be office IDs, those sorts of things. All the kinds of things that are coming from your internal HR system can be shown here. And basically, what you get is basically a model of your organization, and there can be more than one model. Depending, you've got different regions. Each region then becomes a framework, and you've got a way of basically mapping out your hierarchy. The other thing I wanted to mention is that's based on organizational groups. We also support obviously the sort of direct report model, and there's a separate way that we manage that. Something that it's important to show you also as well is how you actually can assign. You can actually do a manual assignment of a learner to a particular part of the organization. So, for example, how does a learner get sort of attached to a position? This is I showed you before. You can basically select a position for a learner manually. These obviously can be imported. We've got the import doing the same thing, but you can basically manage where in the organization they reside, and finally, who their manager is. We've got quite a lot here, but if I wanted to say someone like the same one, that's our demo account. I should be able to see John in here somewhere. It's quite a lot, but I can basically pick a user, and that's basically now my manager. So it's a really enhanced sort of form of the user profile functionality that's common in Moodle. The other thing I want to mention is this is actually based on HRXML, so we use that standard to basically track these values, and we have the ability to also track and store a primary position, secondary position, and aspirational position. One other area I'd like to call your attention to is reports, and in a related way, development plans. I think I'll just dive into this a little bit more and show you a bit more about the development plans. I think probably a lot of questions people have is, what they saw is not quite what they'd expect one to be able to offer to your staff. So one thing is I wanted to describe that you actually can rename things, like if you don't want to use the word courses, if it's something like learning opportunities, there's a way that you can basically change those values here. The development plans that you saw in earlier are based on a template, and the ways that you can define those plans and the ordering of things. Say if you want to make competencies primary, we have ways to be able to change the sort order of those components. And the other key thing is really, it depends on what it is how it is you'd like to basically manage the workflow of the IDP. And we have these default settings for a user-driven workflow where the learner can assign their own learning and the manager basically can view it, or where the manager basically drives it, or there's other types. So basically, we've got some fine-grained controls over exactly how the IDP is configured. You saw before there were priorities. So you can basically define what sort of priorities you want to use, maybe low, medium, highs, and what you want to use. That's configurable. And objectives as well. You can define your own scale for those as well. The key thing is here, every part of the IDP is configurable. And we design that because we don't want to limit any organization that's working with the platform from the kinds of things they want to achieve. So yeah, finally, the report builder. This is actually, I think, probably one of the most exciting parts that we've sort of been able to include is this is basically a report builder. We looked at a lot of business intelligence tools and came up with this approach to basically allowing an administrator to define a whole range of types of reports. So you're seeing here a basic set of reports that have already been created by an admin and some embedded reports that are included by default. So I want to point out that as an administrator, you can create a new report. So you can basically name a report, and you can select the source in the platform that's already been created to basically as a sort of the backbone for the report you're creating. And then within each report, you have a range of different settings that you can use to tailor and target the report to the audience. So, for example, we had a good look at the course completions report, and so basically, as an administrator, you can control the columns that appear in the report. And the key thing there is typically the nomenclature that you'd want. It may very well depend on the organization, your own organization, the types of terms you use, and it's quite easy to change those values. You can add new columns to the report. So we've got a whole range of different columns that are available. A question we often get asked is, can you add custom fields to users, and can you make those appear in either the columns or the filters? Yeah, the answer is yes. And there's quite a range of different types of information you can make appear as columns. Also, the filters you saw before in the other reports I showed you as a manager, you can control what filters appear, and that's quite useful. But the even more critical components are you can define what type of content is included. Say, for example, if you're giving a report to a manager, or actually a better example is a regional manager who has the ability to see information in the system. Are they only able to see data for users who are currently in their part of the organization, or can they see records for those who were in the organization previously and while they were but are no longer in it? And that's the kind of real control that an administrator has. And most importantly is basically what sort of access, what roles in the platform are allowed to see the report that you've created. So some reports are available just for administrators, and some are just for different types of roles. So again, we're really excited about the fact that we don't have to spend a lot of partners don't have to spend a lot of time basically recoding these sorts of things. It's all already out of the box, quite configurable to the kinds of things you'll need for managing reports. Embedded reports, so these are the kinds of things you saw in some of the functional areas. So the one that defined courses was the course search. So if needed, different types of restrictions can be placed on content, who can access what, and the kind of columns appear, the kind of filters that appear. So as you add content, as you add courses, et cetera, you can really sort of tailor the kinds of, basically the way the catalog is managed in the platform. So that's an overview of the functionality of Totara from those three key roles. I wanted to jump back now to show you a bit more. We get a lot of questions about, well, how can we make it look, more like our look and feel, that we're working with. And maybe it'll be just a moment. I'll show you this. Essentially, you've got it's open source. So again, with Totara, you don't have to. There's no license that you're paying for, and you can really customize it. And here's some examples of some recent work that Kenny has done with Moodle and with Totara. We're planning to add these components in the back end for these sites. but essentially, here's a site for Pepsi. This is Timberland. So you can see quite quickly the look and feel that these organizations have. Their global branding guidelines are being met by the work that we're doing. So a bit more about the code and the subscription. So what we are offering is code that's available in the beginning of January. It'll be by subscription. It's 100% GPL, so basically any subscriber can do whatever they like with the code. It's free to reuse it, to distribute it, to customize it. We're not really concerned with what people do with it afterward. We're really there to support those who are really interested in the other services that we provide with our annual subscriptions, and those are really just a range of support and providing updates, new releases, and access to we've got a subscriber portal. So basically a set of forums that learners, that subscribers can basically come and ask questions and arrange the documentation. And also with the subscription, we will take a priority consideration for new features that are added into future releases of Totara. Totara, again, is the LMS. The code is GPL, so there's no restrictions on where it's hosted. If you subscribe and you've got your own team that can basically install it, you have that freedom. But if you'd like, there are Totara partners. There's also other capable developers in the market space. But Totara itself will also be offering hosting and support. And some of the distinguishing features about that is that it will be in a private cloud, and it's going to be coming from a major enterprise supplier. With that hosting and support, we will be giving 24-hour support with, as I mentioned, Kinneo's operations in the UK and Catalyst in New Zealand. We've pretty much got 24/7 support around the world. So we also have some other sort of key providers coming on board. So essentially, we will be able to support requests and issues that are tracked around the world. And of course, with the subscription and with hosting, you'll get access to Totara experts who are very familiar with the code and how to best use it in your environment. Totara also has a partner program, so we've already been working with a lot of different organizations and talking to them, and are quite keen to come on board. There's a different range that works. So basically, Moodle partners are automatically included in the program if they wish, and there are some key things that are part of the Totara partners and the kinds of things they can offer. So as that becomes more realized, it'd be good to sort of check in with that. There may be some local partners that can provide you with the services that you need. So just wanted to summarize what Totara is. Again, it's an LMS that's based on Moodle that enables corporations to quickly deploy enterprise learning in their LMS. And I think the key thing is that it's as quick to get up and running as it is with Moodle. We just got some set of enhancements and obviously some additional integration that furthers the platform. But it is fast to install and get up and running with. It provides all the benefits of open source, and it's easy to use functionality. And again, there's no cost for the license. And we found with working with a range of different organizations that can reduce the cost of the learning platform by 90%. So that concludes the presentation component. I've just been Anyway, I'll just take a moment to see if there are any questions that are not answered yet.
Yes, hey, Jonathan, one of the questions is about how does SCORM work, and maybe you want to take a quick second to show how to add a SCORM object back in the interface. Might be a much quicker way to answer that.
Yep. So that's functionality that's standard in Moodle, and there's basically the course format allows for more than one type of activity to be added. You're seeing a very standard Moodle course here, not the sort of simplified version I showed you earlier. But essentially, you have different types of activities that can be added to a course, and one of them is SCORM. So what you get automatically before SCORM is actually imported into the system is you have some required fields called SCORM activity. And you have the option then. You basically, at this point, need to basically select your SCORM activity. And if you haven't uploaded it already to the platform, you basically can go ahead and browse for that. Now, I think this is actually a non-valid SCORM package, but what you'd actually be able to do at this point is it's going to basically complain. But you can basically upload the file here, and once you've uploaded it, there's some other controls that you can specify about how the SCORM activity behaves in the platform. But once that's done, you get the results that I showed earlier, and that is you see the SCORM being launched, the SCORM activity being launched from the course page. So, so now I've uploaded that file, and if I chose the file, at this point, I won't be able to show you more because I don't have a valid SCORM package, unfortunately, to show you that portion works. But essentially, once you've got some other settings, you can set the max grade, how many attempts learners get, et cetera. But once that's done, you've essentially added the SCORM activity. I hope that satisfies the question.
Yeah, and a couple of people have asked about the subscription fees. If you actually go to the Totara LMS website, so www.totaralms.com, they're actually published out there. And Jonathan, another question was about the sandbox.
Yep. We are intending to. We're still doing some final testing and development. We will have a sandpit available, publicly open one, with those common logins. It'll be in January when we do launch and we release the code. So it's probably toward the end of January. We're aiming to have it all available by the Learning Technologies Conference in the UK. It's around the 27th. So by then there will be an open version, 24/7, that anyone can come in and basically trial the functionality on their own.
Someone's asking about the genesis of the word Totara and its relationship to Mahara.
Yeah, so the proper pronunciation is Totara, and it's a Maori word. Mahara is also a Maori word. So a little bit of history. They are related. Mahara is a mini portfolio system, for those of you who don't know, that the development started in New Zealand, and the lead development team of Mahara is Catalyst. It's taken off around the world, and particularly in actually a wide range of regions. But anyway, when the Mahara project adopted the name, and the meaning of that is, I think it's community. Actually, forgive me if I'm mistaken. And there's actually another open source. Mahara is open source. It's very Moodle-like in how it works. A lot of the sort of underpinnings are Moodle-like. Again, Catalyst is one of the lead. It's part of the lead development of Moodle. So the developers on the Mahara project have done a lot of work, and there's been a lot of integrations with Moodle and Moodle and Mahara. And we've actually had a lot of discussions with the Catalyst team about how to do some interesting things between Totara and Mahara. For example, Mahara is not only an e-portfolio system, it's got social networking capabilities. It's very user-centric, and it allows things like a learner to import information in from different LMSs. There's been a lot of work in Moodle 2.0 to support that, and we have plans to basically take things like your IDP, the results from your IDP, the assessments that are being done in Totara, and basically allow those to be imported or sort of exported by a learner into their portfolio, and they can sort of keep that in the future. That's on that roadmap, but we don't have that functionality now. Totara is a tree that the Maori used. It's a very sacred tree, and it's used to do a number of things, but it's very, very strong. It goes very, very tall, and I think predominantly all the canoes they used for the amazing sailing efforts they use is the Totara tree. And it's a very strong wood, and it lives for a very long time. So that's a little bit of history in the name and its relationship to Mahara. Any other questions?
Hey, Jonathan, I'm sorry. Someone is asking about e-learning and how you would, I assume they're referring to asynchronous e-learning. Can you maybe kind of go back to a course page and show how you can add a number to, how it can be made up of activities in e-learning and maybe launch a course just so people could get a sense of how that all fits together?
So essentially, I'm going to navigate through here. So there's quite a, not sure how to exactly answer that. What you actually can do, you can do quite a range of different kinds of learning and add it to a course. So there's quite a range of different types of activities that can be added. SCORM is obviously a key one, and unfortunately I don't have a module on my platform that will work that. I can find the health and safety one. That's probably the easiest one to show. But you can basically add different types of learning. It can be singular. It can be one type of learning that can be added to a course, or you can have a range of different things. This workshop should be slightly different. So another example is you can add sort of feedback if you want to add an evaluation to a course, and you can basically extend the offerings of the course quite a lot. I'm not sure that I've answered the question, though. So in that case, I've added a feedback activity. If you want to expand the number of this is actually a topic, you can add multiple topics to a course. I'm going to assume that's all that I can say there. Someone asked about languages. Totara is, basically Moodle provides a whole range of different learning packages. I think there's 75 languages that are currently supported. It's quite easy to translate, so it is now in English, but we've already got, I think, a translation underway in Israel, and there will be others that will be, it basically requires someone to perform those translations, but we'll have other language versions ready soon.
Someone mentioned, yes, and we apologize. We've been doing webinars sort of as the sun goes today and sharing a single PowerPoint deck. So some of our English is UK English or New Zealand English. So yes, absolutely, Totara is available in US English as well. Any more questions? We have a few more minutes. If not, we can let everybody get back to their day.
Yeah, I can answer a few more questions about SCORM and how it works. I mean, I think I sort of covered that one quite well enough. What I'll do is I'll go back to this other example. I think I'm better understanding the question now. So SCORM, for those of you who don't know, it's basically it's a standard for basically managing, allowing content to be portable across various LMSs. And I apologize, I'm going to go back to this example. And so basically what the SCORM module in Moodle allows is it basically lets you, so I've got a little bit more control of the pages, not quite as nice as it did before, but essentially this is the same course that we showed previously. If I go here to update it. And I see. Essentially how SCORM works, I mean, it basically tracks that learning module that I showed you previously that we launched into. It shows you, it provides it's basically it's a player for different types of content. So if I switch my role to student or learner, it'll be easy for me to show you. So basically what this is doing is basically launching a set of files, multimedia files that are loaded on the servers as well. And as the learner progresses through the course, that data is tracked and is sent back to the LMS. So basically as I'm actually interacting with the course, my progress, the bookmarks, etc., are stored. So these kinds of things, and I don't know enough about this this module to say whether these kinds of things are what's actually being tracked in this case. But essentially, all these sorts of things that I'm doing are being tracked. And if there's a score at the end, the assessment values are sent through. And what SCORM then, what the module does is it'll track that and it'll show a report of basically how they progress through and their assessments, et cetera. So it's another type of ways of making learning content available on the platform. Okay, so there's a clarification on one of the questions around SCORM. So if you're using Articulate and you would like to make Articulate available in the platform, you'd basically use the same workflow that I showed previously to upload your Articulate file. So once you've actually created it and you've exported it, you can then upload it the same way that this course has been uploaded. So, and I apologize, it's slightly different in this instance. So essentially, what you can do is upload it in the same way. So you basically just take the file that's exported by Articulate, the SCORM file, and from there you're able to upload it. So essentially right here. So that other file you're seeing previously, I'm not sure if it's Articulate, but it's just another SCORM package that's been uploaded. Yeah, so Articulate is a separate authoring tool. There's a question about whether we'd recommend using Articulate for a beginner, and again, that's a question that's sort of separate from Totara. So, any other questions though about Totara?
Great. Well, I think we thank everybody for taking a little bit of your afternoon and spending it with us. If you want any additional information, if you actually email to info@totaralms.com, it'll actually come to Jonathan and I among a group of people, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. My direct email is just steve.lowenthal@kineo.com, and Jonathan is Jonathan, JONATHAN .Newman, NEWMAN, @kineo.com, and we'd both be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Okay. Thank you.